All right, diving into the metaverse today, we're going to take a look at the top 30 metaverse and gaming projects that are showing up in the CPI. That's the Crypto Power Index. We'll dive deep. We've got a lot of other stories too. I think you guys don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. Let's jump into a lot happening in the metaverse space. And of course, as you guys know, if you can't tell, I'm a little tired. The Bitcoin conference here in Miami, lots happening. We saw an absolute star-studded, session-packed events. It was just amazing. And of course, the parties afterwards were really kind of my downfall, which was getting out there and trying to keep a light of what was happening. So anyway, good point is that there's a lot of people talking about the metaverse in addition to Bitcoin. So I believe, that we finally have come to an agreement that the metaverse is going to be a thing. Bitcoin, of course, will be a big part of it as we start to see some of this kind of move in that direction. Our first story I want to jump to is Lego. And that is Lego and Epic Games team up to build a place for kids and to play in the metaverse. And I think this is something that I've talked about here on the show before, is that whoever figures this out, whoever comes to the plate with a real metaverse play for blockchain gaming, especially for the under 12 crowd, I think is going to be an absolute winner. They will start to, one, foster a lot of the next generation gamers. And I do believe there will also be some aspects that start to create some very interesting monetary components in this as well for both parents, which I have some kids under 12, and also for the kids themselves, especially if it is a learning element like what Lego and Epic is planned here. So Lego and Epic Group announced today they're entering in a long-term partnership, future of metaverse and what it's safe for, what it's going to mean for fun and safety for children and families. Two companies will team up to build an immersive, creative, and inspiring, engaging digital experience. I know this is more press release than anything. There were a couple of statements in here from Tim Sweeney, basically saying, hey, listen, we think children and adults through creative play. This is back to the Lego component. Creative play, I think, is going to be a big part of this. There are some projects out there that already kind of have this now. And one thing I've even noticed, even with my kids under the age of 7, is they're very intrigued with Sandbox. They understand it. It's an easy enough game for them to really kind of get to. What they're starting to learn is how the rewards work. And that to them is a very fascinating part of this. So I think the move here is definitely one that is going to be well received by both families and also by kids themselves. So lots happening in that space. Also, additionally, when you look at the kids component of this is NFTs now potentially for kids. This will be interesting too with Coco Melon heading to Flow blockchain. There are some elements in this story that are kind of unique, and many of you guys will know this if you have children that are under the age of 7 or under the age of 10, is when you look at Moonbug Entertainment, they're going to bring Coco Melon, Blippi, you probably recognize, and then My Magic Pet, Morphle, onto these whole approaches toward NFT platforms. And again, let me zoom up on that for a minute for you guys. I think this will be the key that really starts that education process on NFTs, because with kids, one thing that they are, and that is they are sponges. And as they understand and start to learn how NFTs work, now we're already seeing this in the skins aspect, whether they're playing, in traditional games, that they don't necessarily see the monetary aspect of it yet, but I think this is definitely one of those things that's going to be coming down the pipeline. So lots happening in the space. Additionally, you've got here from GamesBeat, Fabricant raises $14 million. Even though this isn't a lot of money to build wardrobe for the metaverse, there are some pretty big names in this. I want to kind of drop a few here. This is a funding round, company partnered with high-profile metaverse companies, obviously. Greenfield One led the round with participation with Ashton Kutcher in here, also Guy Osseries, Sound Ventures, and the Red DAO. All these are well-known groups that are really starting to invest heavily in the NFT space, and I think we'll continue to see a lot of this kind of going in this place. One thing that they've done here with partnerships, so the company has a partnership with Epic Games. They've also unveiling a new collaboration with World of Women, which is one of the biggest female-led NFT communities. And then Sandbox is jumping in. This is, of course, Sebastian as an angel investor. Listen, this right here, with that many smart people involved in this, it does tell me that Fabricant is and could be maybe the next artifact or in reality, I think we'll see a handful of companies that really start to leverage out when it comes to the fashion side of Metaverse, because I do think it is something that will do well, and we're going to see more and more of it. I can't wait to see how these things do in terms of the tokens and some of the investment opportunities that it might bring to you and I. Let's also talk about Meta, which of course we have to, and that is Meta losing their bid to quash the vote on the future of Metaverse. Basically what this is talking about, and you kind of see the chart right here, and this is that there is a problem right now with the shareholders of Facebook/Meta, that they're looking at the amount of expenditures and volume of money that's being spent in this area, and they're starting to question it. And they're starting to question the future viability of how Meta may be rolling this out. Now, with Zuckerberg pretty much holding the reins and kind of acting as somewhat the Facebook emperor, the likelihood is this may not go anywhere. But the fact that we are seeing stockholders and shareholders start to question the viability of this makes me think that maybe, just maybe, Meta may be in for a bigger fight than they even anticipated as they develop out what could be their own metaverse and what that future might hold. So I'm still very, I'm intrigued by this in the sense that I understand Facebook's mentality in terms of developer, the amount of users they have with 3 billion worldwide. You look at the capacity of access to liquid capital. They have all of the right attributes in place to do something big, but at the end of the day, there are times when these shifts occur in the digital ecosystem. It's happened many times before, from the BlackBerry era to the iPhone, from MySpace to Facebook. We, of course, saw the evolution of where Twitter came from audio. All of those do transition, and it could be Facebook's turn. It could be their turn to transition out and into a new metaverse. Now, the things that are going to be holding that back are projects like this. Meta is reportedly making Zuckbucks. Of course, now we're getting very unusual. This is getting a little spooky and creepy at the same time, to where we've got Zuckerberg playing into a potential cryptocurrency that will reside within the system. Obviously, they gave up on Diem, but they're going and looking at some sort of solution that essentially will be the monetary opportunity within Meta and what that eventual metaverse may look like. So I think as we see more and more use cases roll out within Meta as they get success, if they get success, there will be a tool set that will make this a reality. So it's going to be one very close to watch. I want to thank our sponsors today. Also, obviously, with talking about some of our top metaverse in gaming, SoulChicks is one of those games that is, if you've not looked at it, it's obviously based on Solana. This is the one that kind of caused a little bit of a congestion with Solana, but SoulChicks has been around, and we continue to watch a lot of these projects as they develop and as we start to see a lot more in terms of growth of these projects. The key here, I think, is going to look at a lot of what's happening with SoulChicks, all the way down to their partnerships, which, as you can see, we're starting to see more and more investors getting into these kind of projects. And I think that's one of the key things when you see projects like SoulChicks is how does the investment community align around it? And then also, what does it do in terms of achievements, which are going to be some of the key things that, of course, help these projects get off the ground. But again, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about SoulChicks, make sure and click the link below. All right, let's get into Facebook. Additionally, I wanted to talk a little bit about the creator coins, and that's this little section right here. So the creator coin side of this is intriguing to me because, as you know, with Metaverse, there's going to be a need for the element of creating aspects. Now, Facebook has gone down this track before. They've gone down it with video, they've gone down it with Facebook shows, and the question is, and it's always failed, that particular side of things, outside of user-generated content, Facebook has not been able to really hold the creator community at bay, much like what YouTube has been able to do. So I think the question will be, can they finally bridge that gap? Because if they can, then of course that will help kind of catapult what could become, you know, whether it's entertainment, gaming, education, all those different aspects around where creators really become a big part of these ecosystems, like on YouTube and or Twitter to a certain extent, and many of the other places out there, Spotify, if you go into the podcast side of things. Creators are working and doing a ton of good work in those environments. But outside Facebook, Facebook does have a handful, but it doesn't have the kind of powerhouse creators that many of these other platforms have. So I think if they can make that kind of leap and really move into that next direction, then of course that could be it. The other thing is Metaverse is considering virtual coins and lending. Now, as you can see, there's a lot happening here on Meta. Here's my question. Are they just throwing a whole bunch of stuff up against the wall to see what sticks? Because with this kind of, now granted, they are, $1 trillion company or close to, and the opportunity here for them to really expand, and just because of the user base alone and the demand set that could come from that could be huge. Now, even if they only were to be able to really penetrate, say 10% of their user base, that's still 300 million people, a massive amount of people that could really be utilized, whether it's on lending, whether we see creator communities start to develop, and or if we start to see some sort of economy being developed inside of Meta. I think all of this is going to be very interesting in kind of the future of where it's going. Now, one thing that I would say is when you look at some of the players behind this, remember Peter Thiel has sat on the board of Facebook for quite some time. And he was at the Bitcoin conference. He did a big tirade against gerontocracy, which of course simply means a bunch of old people doing it the wrong way. And I think his whole point was that he's looking to step away from where this old traditional line of thinking is going and really pushing into kind of this new evolution. Now, granted, there's a handful of the boomers that are really starting to kind of push in this direction. I talk to many of my own friends and neighbors and people around the industry in various industries that are really trying to bridge the gap into cryptocurrency and how to make the metaverse move. A lot of times it is a money play, but there are a handful of companies and a handful of individuals that truly see this as a major differentiator for the future of our economy and also for the future of you, people like you and myself, to be able to make it to the next level and do some things around investment and also education. There's just so many opportunities that are going to lie in there. So I think with what Peter Thiel is talking about is this could be a real interesting place of the investment side of things. When you look at what he's talking about here, Libertarian Tech Investor, he's really talking about them saying addressing the analysis of investment merits of cryptocurrencies that are also going against the financial establishments. And to me, that's where the metaverse plays into this, because as we start to see the financial establishments start to lose a little bit of that iron ore that kind of creates that element, I think we'll see the same thing happening in social media and then also in general gaming and entertainment, which the metaverse will be, of course, at the epicenter of both those kinds of elements. I also want to thank our sponsor, FTX. FTX is our official sponsor of our Top 30. And our Top 30 today is we're going to break down something that we did that's a little different with our Top 30 in Metaverse and Gaming. And I would love to get your feedback on this, guys. With the Crypto Power Index, let me kind of jump to this real quick so you guys kind of understand it. If you go to our website, it's just paulbaronnetwork.com. You'll see when you go into your login up here in the top right, you'll land into your products page. If you're a Diamond Circle member, you won't see the Power Index logo there. You'll just see Diamond Circle. But if you are a Power Index member as well, when you click into our content, this is where the data sets start to show up. And what we've done with the Power Index is we've gone to a very interesting model, and this is something we asked a lot of our users and a lot of our subscribers of what they wanted. And one thing they did want was more of the top level projects ranked by sentiment and amplification, and then also historical. So what we did was with our top crypto right here, you now have the capability of 15 coins. We're getting ready to add another 5 coins to this. So we'll have 20 coins that you'll be able to get to historically. So if you wanted to look at Bitcoin, you'd be able to look at that over a 12-date historical run, and you'll see this. We drop this twice a week for all of these. So just so you kind of know, that's how the top crypto works. The other thing is we've done the top 30 on the altcoin side of things, so you get a full run on the top 30. And best of all is this right here, and this is we've now combined the Metaverse in Gaming to Top 30 Metaverse in Gaming, and we will be releasing out our new index, which will give you historical data on a lot of these leading projects. So you'll get to see many of these that are not in our current top crypto, things like Illuvium, Gala and Sandbox are already in there, but I'll give you some highlights of some that are coming. But here's the 1 through 10. Engine will be in the new index. Engine comes in at number 1 this week, and of course ranking in at 7386. And look at that amplification. They're one of the few projects that are amping above sentiment scores. And if you know anything about how we score sentiment and amplification, if amplification, the pink, is scoring higher than sentiment, it usually means it's a leading indicator toward movement in that particular project. So both from a price action movement, also usually from just news and information that start to cause a lot of the community to talk about it. So Engine, and if you, by the way, which we just had the Engine guys on our show here, so make sure and check out that video, because there's a really, if you don't understand what Engine does, watch that video, because it really breaks down the core element of what Engine is, how it works, and what it means to NFTs and to gaming and metaverse in the future. So keep an eye on these guys. Veracity comes in at number 2, 7351. Illuvium holds on to number 3. Mobox with number 4. Wilder World came up the charts. I don't anticipate them to hold in the top 10, but they did show up here this week. Sandbox slides in, and then Aurora, Remark, Thetan Arena came back into the top 10 after being out for quite some time. Decentraland also holding. Now remember, some of these that have really high variances between sentiment and amplification, example being Thetan. Let me kind of zoom in on that one. These are the ones that I'm always a little bit cautious in. If sentiment is high, it usually means there's some buzz happening. But if amplification is super low in comparison to sentiment, that is not a good sign, even though we rank this right now by the sentiment number. So that's why Thetan shows up there in the top 10. Let's go to 11 through 20. Cetify comes in at number 11. Gala Games coming in at number 12. And then My Neighbor Alice holding on. AdShare showing up in the top 20 again. They had been holding on to our top 10 position, or kind of bumping in and out, so good for them. Yield Guild Games, D-Race, looking good. UFO Games, again, looking really well. And then Phantasma comes in a little soft on their overall amplification. Flow comes into the list. We've reclassified them into the Metaverse Gaming list. And then Unix Gaming coming in, amplification holding on for them. Full disclosure, Unix is a partner of ours, so they also come on our show. If you've not listened to some of their shows and some of their analysis, they do a good job. Wax P coming in at number 22. And then you got Render, Blocktopia showing up, and then Zilliqa falling heavily in our top 30. So they were a top 10 project 3 weeks ago, leaning in. Zilliqa has fallen. Of course, I think a lot of you guys already know maybe a little bit about the Zilliqa event that happened here in Miami pre-Bitcoin conference. Not a lot revealed, which I think was a little bit of a letdown, because I think a lot of people anticipated more release. Zilliqa is one of those that I think, again, it goes back to the scenario that I talk about all the time in projects, is that you eventually have to deliver something. Even if you're just delivering small incremental movements, which I understand, most of these projects are kind of going in that direction. Ronin holding in there. Ronin, of course, with a very bad overall amplification at 6522. Not a good score there, but did hold up in the top 30 due to sentiment. So I think overall Ronin is still strong. Immutable X coming in also in the top 30. Vulcan Forge, Star Atlas, and the wrapping up of number 30 is Network. So again, as we look at this, our top 30, fortunately this is brought to you by FTX, so they get a chance to, first of all, we do all of our analysis. We'll come in drop our top 30. The plan is, I want to ask you guys is, do you like the combination between metaverse and gaming? Or would you like us to continue to split those out? If we split them out, there's usually less movement, and I prefer to do more activity for these rankings over time. And if we do that with metaverse and gaming overall, and that's when we're excluding the low cap, because if you include low cap, it gets pretty crazy, because low cap, of course, is a completely different animal. So I'd love to kind of get your feedback. What do you like? Do you like the top 20 metaverse only, the top 20 gaming, or do you like the mix of the top 30? And do you want to see, say, a monthly update on the low caps? So, and that's just in these rankings. Now, as I said, we will be building out the top metaverse index, which will look a lot like the top crypto index that you see right here, where you'll see historical analysis on a lot of these bigger projects. So that's coming very soon. In fact, we may have it launched as early as next week. So if you're a CPI member right now, you get all this for free. It's the same price as you always pay right now. It's just more features as we continue to build into that. So again, lots happening out there. I just want to look finally on the engine price, because this is the one that has been moving here over the last month. Nice move, which is our current number one, holding very strong engine. I'm very intrigued with this project. They are doing some very interesting things, and after having a really deep dive conversation with them, now I'm starting to understand the roadmap and what they're trying to do. And I think when you look at Affinity and also Engine and just kind of what they think about in terms of the future of NFTs, you really have to dig in a little deeper on this project to truly understand how special it is. So keep a close watch on them. Obviously, Veracity, Illuvium, and Mobox rounding out our top 4. I'd take a look at all those right now. Again, this is not financial advice. We'll always give you guys these market movers. The idea from any of these is we'll give you data, insights, all that good stuff. But the main thing is I want you guys going out there doing your own research and diving in yourself to understand what you should be investing into. And even if you want to get into metaverse and gaming, that's the number one thing you have to do, is understand that first. All right, you guys are listening into the podcast. Make sure and give us some kudos. We love to get your feedback anywhere, whether it's on the podcast, over on social media. If you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.